So, this is part two to the Italian job. So, we're picking up where we left off in the word where he knows that he's got to send you in. So, he sets up a scenario where you're going to go in and you got to get the lay of the land. You got the camera on you. She had a camera on her that literally walked through the hall, went to the place so that they could get a literal floor plan of the space so that they could walk into it to get to the safe. So, not only that, they needed to know what kind of safe it was. So she comes in and she pretends she's the cable repair person. And he being slick with her, and her blood boiling. Her blood is boiling. Listen to this man talk, and he trying to be sleazy with her and ask her on a date. And they're listening the whole time. The enemy knows you can't go straight in. They have to do a workaround. That's why you have to take a valley route to get through. They have made the plan. God's got the plan already set up. God's going to help you perfectly execute the plan in such a way your enemies will never expect nor see you coming. And the God ordained kingdom spouse is the key to making sure that plan works. God's going to bring people to you to make sure that you get the stuff that belongs to you. They have what you need, and everything is ready for the plan to be executed. You go in, and they're going to take it for you. I had a vision one night. I was laying in bed thinking about something. There's a lot of ministers that I listen to, but God kind of put it together in my mind. This particular minister was like the military missionary person. This particular guy goes in and he comes in to destroy. You might be the person that they send in, just like Charlize Theron's character, that is the undercover agent that's supposed to go in, get a lay of the land, get the understanding, but nobody knows you're of God. They think you're just that person. You look unassuming, but you're there to tear some stuff down and upset the plans of the enemy. But you're going in with people. This thing that God's preparing to do with you and for you, you can't do it without God. You can't do it without the help of the Lord himself to make sure that all pieces and parts come together the way in which they're supposed to come together. You can attempt to try, but it's not going to work without working with God the way that you need to work with God. You understand what I'm saying? So you are coming in to assist, but God's bringing the people around you the deliverers, the God ordained witnesses, the God ordained assistants, the God ordained security, the God ordained divinely released people that are going to be around you, that are going to be in alignment with what it is that is going to make sure that all things fall into place for God's plan. Okay? So you're good. They couldn't get what they wanted because the party was across the street. Everything was set up. They got the content, they got the plan, they set up the entire schematic. They had it down pat to the centimeter how they were going to get in, and they came to the realization that Charlize Theron, her Mini Coupe, was just the right size to drive through this man's hallway. So they were going to use the cars even then to go through there. You got a vehicle that your God ordained spouse needs. You got a vehicle. It's the model of your vehicle that is perfect for what he needs to get done. He may even need to duplicate it. They needed 3 vehicles in order to get the gold out through the safes or with the safes. So they needed 3 Mini Coupes to drive through the hallway. And in order to carry the weight, and they had to literally set the bottoms of each of the trunks of each of these cars in order to make sure that it could carry the weight of the gold in the back of them. So you got the vehicle, he's got the plan. Things that you've been planning, things that you've been working on, things that God's given you the download for, you have the pathway in which it's supposed to move through. Whatever it is he's working on, you got the path for it. Whatever it is that he's doing, you got the path in which it's going to take for him to get it through. He's got the know-how to talk with the right people to get the duplicates, the cars, the whatever it is, to even duplicate the process to make it easier for you to get in and out. They got it. He even knows to plan it down to a T. He's got it that down pat. Your God ordained spouse knows exactly what he's doing. He's been there long enough. He's been doing it long enough that he got this thing on lock. It's just certain elements that you got that are going to be perfectly orchestrated to maneuver these things right into the ordinance and the right place of the right time that it needs to be done. And as you are strategically planning these things out together, there's a attraction there. You feel it, he feel it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. My coach said this years ago. You take a woman that has a plan and a strategy, and you take a man that knows how to execute, and you got a dangerous pair. So, but the problem, they had it planned all the way down, but they were not prepared to have to go into this community with these mini cars, and there's a party across the street. They can't do what they were planning to do. Sometimes the devil sets you up that there's a plan that you had in your mind that it was going to happen this way at this time, this scenario specifically. And how many times has the devil sabotaged you and you were like, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to get this done today, right now. It's going to be straight. God gave me the plan. It's orchestrated. We're going to orchestrate it to do it this way. What you had initially planned, you end up either having to back it up a couple hours, you have to back it up a couple of days, you go in, everything's straight, but there's that one thing that's off. It always seemed to be that one thing that was off. So what ended up happening, she ended up having to meet up with him, the guy that killed her father, for dinner because they couldn't go in the house. So they had to situate another scenario in order to get in the house again. So she had to meet him for dinner to orchestrate a scenario to find out, to set him up so that he wouldn't be in the house. So, they end up, she has to go to the dinner. Have you ever had to wait for something? Wait to take back what God's given you? Wait. It is weighty to wait on something. My ladies have been waiting on a kingdom marriage for longer than 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Longer. Whoever y'all are. Raise your hands. You had to wait, didn't you? And the weight of that wait got heavier every single time you had to wait on it, didn't it? Have you ever noticed in Habakkuk 2 and 3 when it said, though it might tarry, wait for it, it will speak and it will not lie. God set up a clause in the situation that was going to be a delay. It said, tarry, you're going to have to wait. There's going to be moments you're going to have to wait longer than you thought you were going to in order to be able to receive the thing in which you were waiting for to receive. They had to rework the plan in order to set up the cars a little bit different so they were ready to go. So, she goes up to the dinner. She meets him. They have dinner. They're talking. And then all of a sudden, it seems like he finally figures it out. I know you. Because it's something that she said that was reminiscent of her father. And the second she said it, he was on to her. Because she relaxed and she just was talking. And she's like, yeah, I knew somebody that, he said, I knew somebody that said something like that before. You're his daughter, aren't you? And your goddamn spouse may have you in a sticky situation in order to set up his enemy. Remember, Esther had to interact with Haman a couple of times, and you knew Haman was trying to kill Xerxes. So you may think you have this thing in order, but it might come out the plan to your enemy. He may figure it out. But what happens is when the Judas character figures it out, Mark Wahlberg and the rest of the team come busting in the restaurant because they ain't going to let her get hurt. They already lost the father. And they end up getting into it with him, but he comes to the realization they're all alive now. It's like, oh, so y'all alive. I think the only one that came in there though was Mark Wahlberg. And he ends up facing his Judas. Your goddamn spouse gonna have to face their Judas. And I'm talking about whoever that Haman is, whoever that person is, he's gonna end up having to face that person. Come face to face with him. Maybe he may have used you temporarily and you agreed to it because you wanted to help him. But he gonna have to square up with the person that uh, is betraying him. Because remember, even Xerxes at the end of Esther had to come face to face with Haman as being the person that uh, was trying to take his throne, to take his position, to kill him. And she ends up turning around and she punches him. Ladies, some of us, we are covert, bold people. And we get pissed off. I mean, really mad. we gonna lash out. We lose a little bit of our Christendom. We might cuss you out. We might curse. We may even throw some blows, depending on the scenario. I remember one time I got so mad. I had been in a scenario for a long time, and it's only the grace of God in that situation, because the way that scenario was set up, had been under so much stress, and the mental stress of that season had stressed me out so bad that when this thing happened, I turned around, grabbed what I had, and I knocked it. I was literally in front of 2 police officers when I threw this thing. I didn't throw it at them. I didn't come near them. But one was ready to arrest me. The other one, by the glory of God, had been set up that he managed to stop the other one from coming after me. All he said, pick your stuff up and leave. Just pick your stuff up. And he calmed the other guy down. The other guy was ready to come after me. I picked my stuff up and I walked out. I grabbed it and I was trying to keep myself together. And I walked down the street, but I could hear that second police officer screaming at me. You ever come back here? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to arrest you. And the other guy is still trying to hold him back. We have been through some hell in our seasons. We've been through some hell. So when that moment comes, sometimes we may lose momentary focus. And she lost her momentary focus, turned around and socked. She socked that guy, punched him clear in his face, knocked him back, and it was hilarious to them. It was absolutely hilarious. Mark Wahlberg turned to her. He's like, "You okay?" She's like, "Yeah, but I hurt my hand." It's like some of us, we just been through it too long. And we gonna show our God-ordained spouses. It's like, I ain't want to play with them. Don't mess with me. And it's like, I'm mad. They may have, and I'm sure it's going to happen at some particular point. Somebody in his world is gonna piss you clean off. And you may not go off on the person, but boy, when you and him get alone, he gonna see a side of you that he never thought that. It's like, ooh, she cussed like that? Ooh, she mad like that? Ooh. Who is this woman? I didn't know she was like this. I'm like, let me not cross her. Like, seriously, let me not cross her. So, let's see. The plan has to be reworked. So they get back that night. They know that stuff ain't going to stay there that long. They need to rework that plan as soon as they possibly can, because they know now that he knows he ain't gonna keep that gold in the same place, so they got to rework it and rework it quick. Your enemies know now that you coming for whatever it was they took, and they're monitoring you, but they trying to get out the way real quick so that they can keep hold of whatever it was they stole, but they know their clock is running out. God's judgment is coming and the clock's running out. The verdict's about to drop and they're about to lose their position, so they trying to get it real quick. They're trying to get rid of it real quick. When they got into the scenario, the main reason they were able to track their Judas down was because he was selling the gold bars to these people in it was a pawn shop. And it was only when one of the Balinese dancers was identified on the gold bars that he turned around and killed the guy that he'd been doing the pawn work with, which actually was going to later become a benefit to Mark Wahlberg's character. So what ended up happening is they needed to move it. So they had to get it in transit. So they had to rework the plan in order to literally change the direction of where they were moving. They were going to do the same thing, but just change the route. God will reroute you mid-process. You think, this is it. This is the way that we're going. This is how it's going to go down. This is exactly what it is. We make plans, God laughs. Your thoughts are not God's thoughts. Your ways are not God's ways. God will make a river in the desert and paths in the wilderness, but it's not going to be the way that you thought. Some of you, and sometime you have to release your plans of the way that it's going to happen and let God reroute you. They needed to take the gold while it was in transit. So, the only way they were going to be able to take the gold while it was in transit is if they moved and switched the plan. They needed to make sure that they had the route that they were going to take it. So they had Seth Green character who was always complaining about he was the one that invented Napster. He had to take control of the traffic lights. They already had the setup for that to be done, because that was the way that they were going to get the gold in the middle of the night to take it. But this type of plan is going to need to be done in the middle of the day. And the Lord's giving me right now that God's going to make sure that he's going to have, some of you have wanted the Lord to get your stuff back in quiet. And God's saying, I'm going to do this in daylight, in front of everyone, in order to prove and vindicate you. It has to be done public, it has to be done in daylight, and it has to be done in such a way that it's going to vindicate you. So, the next morning, they come to the understanding that he's moving the gold, but he's taking 3 armored cars. They're trying to figure out, oh, great, now which way are we going to do it? Your enemy is going to try to bait and switch you at the last minute. How many times have you been prepared to shift to a new season and you felt the oppression, the confusion, the doubt, the fear, the frustration? God, the enemy is sending weird counterfeits and what do you call it? He's playing the switch. You know when you switch the cups around? I forget what the name of that game is. He's playing that kind of game. You think your God of Day spouse is going to show up here, and he sends a counterfeit to where you thought that they were going to be. The counterfeit looks almost like your real thing, and it's a bunch of confusion. Whatever it is you're waiting for, a counterfeit option comes, and you're like, okay, I managed to dodge that one, but another one. You know what I'm saying? So, you're in the midst of all of that, but you're like, I know God. I know what God said. God's giving you confirmation, and He's giving you signs. They managed to figure out one of those. It's only one that safe can be in. And if it's only in one, which one's carrying the heaviest weight? Because, of course, the gold weighs something and the safe weighs something. So whatever's in the other two vans, it ain't gonna weigh anything. They had to watch the wheels on all of the vehicles to see which one was riding lower than the rest. They found one vehicle. So they knew to track the one vehicle and send that one vehicle in the route that they wanted it to go. Your enemy thinks he knows what he's doing. Your enemy thinks that he knows the route in which to take to trick you up and trap you. But God was in control of this thing the whole time. He knew which route to even send the enemy on in order for him to be trapped. That literally, the Judas character, he who was played by Edward Norton, was in a helicopter, could see everything. But the moment that the gold needed to be taken, he lost sight of that one truck. They had set it up that they had done the paint dynamite, and they had a metal door that they were going to turn over when the paint dynamite was set up. It was going to blow directly underneath of that vehicle and drop the whole thing in underground. There's a funny scene with Mos Def and Mark Wahlberg sitting on the bench just underneath the thing, setting the fuses for it to blow. And like, if I put this power coil inside of this tube and it hits the side for 1 second, both of us will be the last two people we ever see. And he's like, take all the time you need. We can sit here all night. I don't care. But if you're going to put it in there, do what you do. You got all day, spouse. Some things he's had to do has put his life within inches of death because of the industry that he was in, because of the place that he was in, because of the situation he was in. Inches of death. So the vehicle drives through and they manage to blow it and knock over the piece of metal. So when anybody looked, as the traffic fell back into order, it was like the truck disappeared. Literally, it was like a truck disappeared. And Charlize Theron's character and the rest of the team were waiting underground for the we're going to need to be waiting underground. Now this is the other fun part. Charlize Theron and the rest of the team, the top people that were going to be the riders to drive it, they had to drive these mini coupes through the underground tunnels of the sewer and the subway station. But they only had a open window for a specific amount of seconds because the train was going to come through and they needed to stop it at the appropriate time so that they could not be stopped. It had to be down to it. This was what Mark Wahlberg did. He always calculated it down to the timer, and it was Seth Green's character who always was the one that electronically stopped everything in its tracks. Every person on your God ordained spouse's team has a very specific job, but your job is the most powerful and the most key because you are the key. She was the key. So you had the wonderful car chase sequence that they had to go through the subway tunnels, jump the subway tunnel, go through the actual tunnel that the subway train, just in the nick of time for Seth Green's character to block up the hole in the terminal with the train, and they drove through to meet at the central point to pick up the gold. She down there, and she turns around and she sees the safe. The safe is not the same safe that she saw in the house. She's like, that's not the same safe. She already had warned at the very beginning of the film, I have never been able to crack this particular model of a safe because in it has a layer of glass that if you are using a drill bit, because this is her main tool that she's used to using. God has given you a tool, you know how to use it, you know the exact way it works, and for some of us, that's our computers, that's our technology, that's our whatever it is. We know how to organize, plan it, we know how to do everything the way that we know how to do it. But your God ordained spouse is a little bit different. He does it old school. He knows how to do it pen, paper, the original electronics. He knows how to do that. You don't gotta know how to do that. You're a modern head. You're like, give me a computer, give me a this, give me that. But your God ordained spouse is like, give me the soundboard, give me this, give me the what is it? Actual notebook. You're like, give me a remarkable tablet pad. You're electronic all day. They're original, meaning give me the instrument, give me the I don't know, if you're a real estate agent, give me the I can't think of it. I'm thinking electronics. But they're an actor, they use an actual notebook instead of a tablet. I mean, I'm trying to think of some things. But her father, he safe cracked using the actual turning of the safe's lock. You don't know how to turn a lock like that. She didn't know how to turn the lock like that. You know how to operate with what you know how to do. David and Goliath. You don't know how to use anybody else's weapons. You know how to use what you know how to use. But your weapons will be found